Hey guys, welcome back to another sports stuff video. Today we'll be over. Hey guys, welcome back to another sports stuff video. Today we'll be going over the Black Monday firings in the NFL of all head coaches and all coordinators, and my opinion on each one. So if you guys do enjoy, please leave a like, comment, subscribe, hit the notification bell to be notified when I post next. Let's get into this video. So yes, I am going to cover as well the guys that were fired during the season. I'm going to include them in this video just so we can go over the teams that how they could replace them and where those guys could land. So starting off, after a 2-3 start, Robert Saleh of the New York Jets was fired. Robert Saleh, I don't think he was really the issue in New York, as we saw when Jeff Ulbrich took over. The issues kind of flared up, right? When Robert Saleh was the head coach, they had a top 10 defense with a piss poor offense. Then as the season went on, the offense got better and the defense got worse. So I imagine that Robert Saleh, who was, I believe, a part of he was a defensive line coach or the defensive coordinator during San Francisco's first Super Bowl run against the Chiefs. I believe he was either the DC or the D line coach. I cannot remember, but 3+ seasons in the NFL as a head coach of the New York Jets. Gets canned. I imagine he lands on his feet pretty quickly. He's been in Green Bay with Matt LaFleur, who he's very good friends with. He's been helping Jeff Hafley with that defense, so I imagine that they get to stick up for their guy. And if he does, when he does get interviewed for all these different jobs, because he's already been interviewed for Jacksonville, they've already said that Robert Saleh is on the list to get interviewed in Jacksonville. So Robert Saleh, I imagine, either lands as a DC somewhere or as a head coach somewhere in the NFL as well. I think he runs a really good system. I think he's just a really good defensive coordinator, right? He's a good guy who knows how to scheme up defense. And I think there's going to be a lot of teams looking for a defensive coordinator that if Robert Saleh doesn't get a head coaching job, he'll land on as a DC somewhere. But as a head coach, he never really got a fair shot, right? I mean, he had Zach Wilson at quarterback, Trevor Siemian at quarterback, and Aaron Rodgers at quarterback. All three of those guys, not really starter quality anymore, right? You got Aaron Rodgers. I thought last year Aaron Rodgers going to New York, I imagine it could have been a different story, right? He would have looked different. He would have been a little bit more mobile, a little less statue in the pocket. And again, the vibes were different, right? The vibes going into the season last year for New York were very positive. Guys on the team were very positive about it. And then the injury happens. That does impact the aura around the team even into this season, right? They know they lost the season. They wasted a season of everyone's careers for Zach Wilson to be the quarterback and Aaron Rodgers to get injured. So the Jets, I wonder where they'll go. Are they going to go an offensive coordinator, head coach? Are they going to go a vibes head coach, a defensive coordinator, head coach? We'll see. I think they pivot into an offensive head coach, someone who will lean either into Aaron Rodgers or into a young rookie quarterback, or even to a veteran, right? Maybe they go for Sam Darnold again, right? Maybe Sam Darnold comes back. Maybe Geno Smith doesn't get re-signed in Seattle. Maybe they get Geno Smith. Maybe they go for a flyer, right? There's a lot of guys in the NFL right now that I think could be quality starters. Maybe the Jets just go with a bridge. But Robert Saleh, I imagine that Robert Saleh will end up as a head coach somewhere this offseason. A guy who will not end up as a head coach this offseason is Dennis Allen. Again, he was hired in the middle of the he was fired in the middle of the season. Dennis Allen never really was a great head coach. He's a solid defensive coordinator, right? He was an okay defensive coordinator from 2015 to 2021 when he was with the Raiders. Then joined on the staff of Sean Payton. But I imagine that he doesn't get a head coaching job anywhere. I wouldn't be shocked if he signs on in Denver as like the defensive line coach or the linebackers coach, right? He'll be an assistant coach to Vance Joseph in Denver. I imagine that he'll get picked up by his buddy Sean Payton. You know what I mean? He's a respected elder in the league. He'll land somewhere. The Saints, we'll see what they do as well. They have a lot of questions I think need to get answered before I even think of who they can hire. That will be another video again later this week of fitting coach, fitting what guy should go to what team in the hiring cycle. I'm trying to get that out before the video. Before guys start getting hired. But I think I have a few days, right? I have a few days to get that decided. Mike Vrabel is interviewing on Thursday with the New England Patriots. That could be a deal as soon as he walks in the door. So I'm gonna try and get that video out tomorrow. But yeah, this is just the fires, right? But yeah, Dennis Allen, I don't see him being a head coach anywhere in the NFL next year. I do see him signing on to be a coordinator somewhere. Or again, just go to Denver, sign on to be a assistant coach with Sean Payton's team. That's something I think could really happen, and just get his aura back. You know what I mean? As a solid defensive coordinator. And the Saints, they'll go in a different direction. Probably go with an offensive head coach, right? To try and get the most out of either Derek Carr or Spencer Rattler or another guy that they're going to sign. But definitely get the most out of this young team that they have. Again, they have a lot of guys that are making a lot of money. But there is a core of young offensive weapons that I think they can really get a hold of and keep going with. So yeah, New Orleans Saints fire Dennis Allen. He'll end up as a DC or as an assistant coach somewhere. Next, we have Matt Eberflus getting fired from the Chicago Bears. Eberflus had to go. He had to go. He was not someone that I thought should have been the head coach going into the season. I thought they should have fired him last offseason so Caleb Williams and a head coach could go into their careers together. They didn't do that. They're doing the exact same thing they did with Mitchell Trubisky, where you have a defensive head coach on the last chance, last straw, and they draft a young quarterback. He gets fired 5-6 games into his career, and now they have a whole new offensive system next year. They got to stop. They got to stop it, because now Ryan Poles will probably get fired next year if they don't have another good year. And there'll be a new GM. And that GM didn't hire that head coach or draft that quarterback. And in 3 years from now, Caleb Williams is going to walk. They'll fire the head coach. GM picks a new head. It literally is a whole cycle. It's a whole cycle. I firmly believe that you need to fire a GM and a head coach together. And you hire a GM and a head coach together. Because what team in the NFL right now have a head coach and GM that were hired on separate years and they're being successful? I will wait for your answer. There is no one. They're all together. Kwesi Odafe-Mensah, Kevin O'Connell, hired together. Brad Holmes and Dan Campbell, hired together. Andy Reid and Brett Veach, hired together. I believe the LA Rams as well, they were hired together. Sean McVay and Les Snead were hired together. The Chargers, Tom Telesco and Harbaugh, hired together. When you have a GM, head coach, and quarterback who all believe in each other and all want to succeed, and there's no egos, no power fighting, you're going to succeed. But the Chicago Bears, yet again, mess it up. And they've already said that Ryan Poles is trying to go away from Ben Johnson because Ben Johnson will want too much roster control. Literally, the same issue that is going to happen is if they do hire Ben Johnson, whoever they hire, in a year, Ryan Poles will be fired. And a new GM comes in. And that GM didn't hire that head coach or draft that. It's a whole issue. It's a whole issue. We're going to see what happens. We're going to see what happens with Matt Eberflus. The Colts just fired Gus Bradley, the defensive coordinator. So maybe Matt Eberflus ends up back in Indianapolis as Shane Steichen's DC. That's a possibility, right? When he was a DC, he did a pretty good job as a DC. The last half of 2023, the Bears had a top 3 unit. Maybe a whole season as just a defensive coordinator. Eberflus can be solid, but listen, Eberflus needs to go somewhere and be a DC. He will not be a head coach this upcoming cycle. That might be his one chance as a defensive coordinator. That might have been his one chance as a head coach. Sorry, like that was a horrible tenure. You lost the locker room. You lost a blue chip prospect in Caleb Williams. You lost your coaching staff. You lost respect of one of the biggest markets in the NFL. Like that might be your last straw. Your one and only chance to be a head coach. You'll probably be a DC for the rest of your career. And you could be a good DC, right? Like Spagnuolo in Kansas City, he has a really good gig, making $8 million a year as a defensive coordinator. Like that is a possibility, but he's not a head coach. He won't be a head coach again. Matt Eberflus gets fired from the Chicago Bears. Piss poor. Finally, the first actual Black Monday firing is Jerod Mayo of the New England Patriots. This one is a little bit of a shocker in my opinion. You know, Jerod Mayo wasn't really given the best opportunity to succeed. And the fact that Robert Kraft said that, it's a joke. It's a complete joke. It's very obvious he didn't want Jerod Mayo. I believe it was built into Bill Belichick's contract that when he did get quit or fired or leave, Jerod Mayo would automatically get the job. So Kraft was kind of stuck. He was stuck with Jerod Mayo. Before the last week of the season, Jerod Mayo, it was already coming out he was going to get fired. So I'm happy he won, right? Like, if you know you're going to get fired the next day, screw you, Robert Kraft. I'm going to try and win this game, do my job, and they won. And screw you over for the first overall pick. Because Jerod Mayo was going to get screwed. He was going to get screwed no matter what. If he would have lost, they would have said, you made us get the number 1 overall pick, you're out of here. But if he wins, he lost his number 1 overall pick. Get out of here. It's a joke. It is a complete joke. I can't believe that he actually got fired. I would have given him at least 2 seasons to prove that he was worthy of something. But this is the issue with the NBA and NFL. The NBA, the leash is too long. Why is Doc Rivers still coaching? Why are the GMs there for 10, 15, 20 years? You got to clear house every once in a while. And in the NFL, the leash is too short. It's too short. Like, these guys get 1 year, 2 year, 3 year to give 20 years of outlook, right? Like I said, Dennis Allen probably won't be a head coach again. It's a second chance. He probably won't be a head coach again. Matt Eberflus, how piss poor this went, he probably won't be a head coach again. Gerard Mayo probably won't be a head coach for the next 5 to 10 years. And in 5 to 10 years, he'll get another chance. The leash is too small in the NFL. And the fact that GMs and head coaches don't go together. If you hire a head coach, you got to give him a couple of years. Same with GM. And you got to hire and fire them together. Unless you have a Hall of Fame GM. And they don't come around often. They don't come around often. So, Gerard Mayo, I probably wouldn't have fired him, but I also probably wouldn't have hired him, right? I don't think he was a great fit for the hire, but he deserved at least 2 years. He deserved it. You hire him to turn around a team that was horrible, and they played horrible, right? They played bad, but they won against the Bengals week 1, right? They won week 18. They won 2 games. They played competitive in some games. Like, they could have turned it around. But you gave him a bad roster and a GM who didn't want to draft anyone of value. You drafted Jalen Polk over Jalen McMillan. So, what do you expect? What do you expect? But, yeah, that's the Patriots. They'll probably end up hiring someone within the first... They'll probably be the first team that hires a new coach. But, yeah, whatever. Doug Peterson with the Jacksonville Jaguars, another joke of a franchise. How is Trent Baalke still there? How has he been able to hire 3 head coaches? It's a complete joke. Trent Baalke should not be in the NFL right now. He shouldn't. He should not. Now, yes, Doug Peterson, it's rough. I think his coordinators really lost in that job. But at the end of the day, the coach hires the coordinators. So the coordinators' problems are the head coach's problems. So Doug Peterson, after a bad season, loses his job. I think he'll probably end up somewhere as a assistant coach. I don't know if he'll be a head coach this year. I don't know if he'll be an offensive coordinator this year. But I definitely see him being a assistant advisor somewhere in the NFL. And next year, I see him getting some interviews. Does he get a job next year? I'm not saying that. I'm just saying I think Doug Peterson signs on to his staff relatively quickly because of his experience, and he will be an advisor to an offense. But yeah, Jacksonville, what a joke. I mean, I'm not taking this job if I'm a coordinator trying to become a head coach. I'm not taking this job. I'm Ben Johnson, not taking it. Not doing it. Ben Slowick from Houston, not taking it. Like, this is going to be one of the last jobs filled, in my opinion. Yes, you have Trevor Lawrence. Yes, you have Brian Thomas Jr. Yes, you have Travis Etienne, Tank Bigsby, good defense. But listen, this ownership and GM, I can't trust. I cannot trust them. So if I'm a head coaching candidate, Jacksonville's probably towards the end of my list. But yeah, Doug Peterson, I truly do believe that he will... what am I thinking? That he's going to end up as an advisor somewhere, which is going to be good for him, right? It's going to be good for him. He'll be an advisor somewhere. He'll help this, a struggling offense be better, and then he'll get job interviews either for an OC or a head coach in the NFL next year. But yeah, I don't see him as a head coach or an offensive coordinator this year. I see him as an advisor. Jacksonville, good luck, dude. Good luck. And finally, Antonio Pierce with the Raiders did just get fired about 2 or 3 hours ago. The Raiders, back-to-back years of firing their head coach. Josh McDaniels made sense. Antonio Pierce, the hire never really made sense. They're saying that last year that Max Crosby said, I will only play in Las Vegas for Antonio Pierce, and he used his leverage to get AP hired. Now that he's fired, I expect Max Crosby to maybe request a trade. But when you have a quarterback battle between Gardner Minshew and Aiden O'Connell, oof. You know what I mean? Like, that's gonna be bad. That's gonna be a bad year. They didn't get the first overall pick. They won 2 wins. They won 2 games in December, so they went from the 1st to the 6th spots. I do see them trading up for someone. This one's a little more interesting, in my opinion, as a job, right? Not because of the conference or the division, right? You have the Chiefs, Raiders. I mean, you have the Chiefs, Broncos, and Chargers. I see it as more interesting because it's a historic franchise, right? You have Brock Bowers, solid wide receivers, like good wide receivers, okay offensive line, and an interesting defense. I see the vision if one of these guys that are top candidates go to Las Vegas. I see the vision, and you're playing in Las Vegas, nice city. Again, really tough division. I don't know if they really get one of the top end guys because it's a tough division, right? You've seen 2 years in a row they fire their coach. Maybe that's something that you'll be a little more weary because you have an owner who's more quick to fire someone. We'll see what happens. But Antonio Pierce, same thing. He's a well-respected coordinator. Last year had a really solid defense, overall stats and grades, and that's how he got the job. So maybe Antonio Pierce signs on as a DC somewhere, with one of the guys that he knows. New York, maybe, right? Maybe he's from New York, played in New York. Maybe there's a chance he signs on as a coordinator or as a assistant coach there. But Antonio Pierce, I don't see him getting another head coaching job for a couple of years. I think he did get a really bad roster, just like Jerod Mayo, to really just tank. Like it felt like they were tanking, and then because they tanked, they fired their head coach. It makes no sense. But yeah, the Raiders, it's interesting. Really tough division to get someone to come over, but man, it's tough. It's really tough. But that is all the head coaches that were fired. Let's now move into the coordinators. So obviously, Jerod Mayo was fired. So the Patriots offense and defensive coordinator are open. Alex Van Pelt got fired. AVP's not horrible. He's really not. I don't think that he'll become like immediately sought after. Like he might sit quietly for a couple of days, getting interviews. But the Browns just fired Ken Dorsey, so maybe there's a chance that he ends up. Back in Cleveland. I don't know. Maybe he doesn't end up back in Cleveland. Maybe he goes to another team. But I just don't see. I don't see the vision, right? I don't see the vision of having a rookie quarterback who had a solid season, right? He had a solid season, but I don't see the vision forward. Because more than likely it's Mike Vrabel, right? Let's just be honest here. More than likely the Patriots are going to hire Mike Vrabel. Tommy Rees in Cleveland, very good connections with Mike Vrabel. Both went to Alabama. They have New England connections. Tommy Rees, more than likely going to follow him to New England, and he's going to be the offensive coordinator for Drake May. But if it's not Mike Vrabel and they hire someone else, Alex Van Pelt getting fired is rough. I think he's a solid offensive coordinator. Don't think he's anything special. I think he's a solid dude. I don't like to hate on guys for no reason. I don't know AVP personally. In Cleveland, he did a really good job. I have no issue with what AVP did for us in Cleveland, but I just really don't see a vision of where he is a top candidate as an OC. Another guy that was fired is the Indianapolis Colts firing Gus Bradley. Brought it up earlier in the video. I think there's a good chance that Matt Eberflus interviews as a DC in Indianapolis. He has connections to the franchise. He has connections to that defense, obviously. So I think there's a really good chance that the DC of the Colts ends up being Matt Eberflus. But they do fire Gus Bradley. Overall, tough, very tough year for that defense. Was god awful, basically. But for the Panthers, Edgar Rivera will stay as a DC. That was not something that was obviously wasn't a firing, but he is going to stay as a DC. Edgar Rivera, again, I think he's a solid defensive coordinator. I think, again, they need to get more pieces for that defense. He's had an unfair tenure in Carolina, right? They need to get more pieces for him, and we'll see what he can do in Carolina. The Seahawks fire Ryan Grubb. Interesting. Former head coach of the University of Washington. I thought their offense was solid, right? I thought, obviously the pass protection was really bad, so maybe that's what let him go. But I truly don't see why Ryan Grubb was fired. I'll have to do a little bit more digging and see why Ryan Grubb was fired. We'll see, though. We'll see. But yeah, Ryan Grubb did get fired from the Seattle Seahawks offensive coordinator. He'll probably go back into the college ranks. Maybe goes to Alabama with Kellen DeBoer, right? That's a possibility. There's a lot of rumors that's where he's going to go. The Bengals fired defensive coordinator Lou Anarumo. That is shocking. He will 100% be a defensive coordinator for a top team next year. Like, that is shocking. Shocking. I'm being 100% serious. I don't understand why they fired Lou Anarumo. Like, their defense was the issue for their team this year. I 100% understand. The defense was the issue. But you're going to tell me to my face that Lou Anarumo was the issue. No, they didn't have the personnel. They did not have the personnel to even have a competent defense. Even a competent defense. Like, he made do what he could, right? Joseph Asai had a solid season. Cam Taylor-Britt had a solid season. But you lost Jesse Bates, you lost Von Bell, and you lost DJ Reader. And your linebackers got another year older. I don't understand. Like, I get it, right? Zach Taylor, his job was probably on the line. And they said, if you keep Lou Anarumo, you're gone too. So maybe it was one of those situations. But I truly think no one wants that Bengals defensive coordinator job. It's a rough roster. I think it'll probably be an internal promotion. Someone that was on Lou's staff gets promoted to DC, and they keep most of the staff together. But Lou Anarumo is going to end up as a top defensive coordinator candidate somewhere in the NFL. And the Bengals are going to notice, oh, yeah, we messed up. Like, we messed up. He's having a great job in, let's say, New England, right? He's doing a great job in New England. He's doing a great job in Indianapolis, a great job in Jacksonville. And they're going to realize they made the wrong call because he's a great defensive coordinator that is just having a really rough season because the defensive staff isn't there. They don't have any guys. But that's all the firings that happened on Black Monday for the NFL. I'm sure more guys will trickle in after more year-end reviews happen. But if you guys did enjoy, please do like, comment, subscribe. Again, later this week will be coaches that I think are going to get hired for different jobs. Will probably be tomorrow. Again, I want to get it out before guys get hired, of me putting coaches and different coordinators in new spots, kind of predicting where I think they're going to land. So if you guys enjoy, please do like, comment, subscribe. I'll see you guys later. Peace and bye.